Hello and welcome to the Power Automate training. So in this training, we're going to see Power Automate, which is a tool used for creating workflows for automation. It is called also RPA, Robotic Process Automation. So that's what we're going to see in this training. So you can sign up in this URL and then you need to create a free account so you can find those two URLs in the presentation that is shared with you in the Drive or in the LMS. However, to gain access, you need a work email. So you need a professional email to be able to log into to Power Automate. So once you log into Microsoft 365, then you can click on Power Automate in here. Otherwise, you can visit, the direct URL. There's a direct URL called powerautomate.com or make.powerautomate.com where you can access Power Automate directly. But if you access it using the Microsoft 365, then you need to click on Power Automate. So before getting deeper into Power Automate, let me explain RPA. What is RPA? So RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. It is a technology that uses software robots, often referred as bots, to automate repetitive rule-based tasks within business processes. So in any business, I often have tasks that needs to be repeated, something that needs to be executed in a daily manner or in an hourly manner. And whenever I have a task that needs, the same task that needs to be repeated multiple times, then I need to automate the process. And among the tools that can be used for automating processes, we have Integromat or Zapier, and also Power Automate. However, Power Automate is concentrated mainly on the Microsoft apps. However, it can also access to other apps like I can create a flow in Power Automate that will access the drive in Google, for instance, and get a document from there. Okay, so these tasks typically involve interactions with digital systems, applications, or user interfaces. So RPA aims to mimic the actions of a human user interacting with software applications, but in a more efficient and consistent manner. So let me give you an example of a workflow. So let's suppose for a company they have a website. In this website there is a form. Let's say there is a customer or a future customer, or we call it a prospect, will fill the form. And then what are the actions that needs to be done? So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to get this information of the client and put it in a CRM. Okay, let's say they're using, for instance, Microsoft Dynamics CRM. Then we're gonna get this information and create a new record in this CRM. Afterwards, we need to send a mail to this client. So, however, we're using another tool to send, let's say we're using Brevo. It's a mailing system. Then we need once the trigger, what is the trigger of this workflow? Is once the form has been submitted, once the user submits the form in the website. Once this is done, we need to add the prospect in the CRM, and at the same time we need to send an email to the client. So this is an example of a simple workflow where we have a trigger and a list of actions that needs to be done in our workflow. Let me give you another example. Let's suppose in a company, I'm an employee and I need to request an absence. So once I create the absence, my manager will get a notification in his inbox that I created the absence, and he needs to either approve or reject the absence. So if my manager approves the absence, it means that the absence is going to be deduced from my quota, from my absence quota, and then I need to get a notification in my mailbox. So I will get an email stating that my absence has been approved by my manager. If it's the opposite, then I need to get a notification that my manager has rejected my absence. So again, this is a workflow that is repeated, multiple times. So at each time there's an employee who's requesting an absence, the workflow needs to be triggered. and we need something, we need to automate this. So we're talking about robotic process automation. So what is Power Automate? So Power Automate is about this, is about what we just explained, however it focuses on Microsoft apps. So Power Automate is a cloud-based service by Microsoft designed to streamline and automate workflows across various applications and services. So it enables users to automate repetitive tasks, integrate applications, and boost productivity. So Power Automate is an integral part of Microsoft Power Platform, providing a low-code approach to automate processes. So what do we mean by this? It's simply that we can create a workflow without any need to type code. We don't create programs for creating the flows. However, just drag and drop and clicks and that's it, without extensive coding knowledge. So it allows users to create automated workflows known as flows. So in Power Automate, we call them flows to connect and synchronize data between different applications and services. So overview of flows as the fundamental building blocks. So flows are the fundamental building blocks that we'll be focusing on in this training. So we're gonna create multiple flows. So each flows has a trigger and a list of actions. So flows represent the sequences of automated actions that are triggered by events or user actions. So now let's see some basic terminologies that we're going to use in Power Automate. So we have triggers, actions, and connectors. So again, triggers, we already explained this. So what is the trigger of my workflow? When my workflow will be finished? Actions, what are the actions that I'm going to execute inside my flow? And connectors are the apps. Like for instance, Twitter is an app or a connector. Let's say Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Mail, SharePoint, Google Mail, Google Drive. So all these are connectors. So I can connect these apps into my flows. So it means that I can get data from any app and give it to another app, etc. Okay, let's move on. So triggers, events that initiate a flow, such as the creation of a new record or an email arrival. So this is the trigger. And we have three types of triggers. First one is event triggers based on changes in data, such as creating, updating, or deleting records. Scheduled triggers initiated at specific times or intervals, and manual triggers, which is triggered by user actions such as button clicks. So the first one, so let's say I'm gonna create a flow, and my flow will be triggered once a new entry is added to a list in SharePoint or to an Excel file in SharePoint. Okay? So once the data is updated or created, I'm gonna trigger my flow. So this is called event trigger. Scheduled trigger, so this means that I'm going to execute my flow each day at noon or each day at midnight. So this is a scheduled trigger at a specific time or specific interval. And manual trigger, so this means that I'm gonna create a flow and at the same time I'm gonna associate a button to my flow. So this means that once I click on the button, my flow will be triggered. So these are the three types of triggers that we have. Now let's move to actions. So actions, the steps performed within a flow, including data manipulation, approvals, or notifications. So let's say the same flow that I already explained. So let's say an employee requests an absence, and then we need to send a mail to the manager informing him that his employee requested the absence. And then once if the manager approves the absence, the employee needs to be notified that the absence has been approved, or in the opposite, so he will be notified that his absence has been rejected. So these are the actions. So my flow is doing what? What are the actions that I have inside my flow? So we call these actions. So actions encompass a wide range of tasks, from basic operations like data transformation and filtering to more complex tasks like sending emails, creating files, or updating records in databases. Each action is a building block that contributes to the overall flow of the automated process. And finally, we have connectors. So integration bridges that enable communication between Power Automate and external services or applications. So this means that I'm gonna get data from SharePoint and send it in an email. So this is an example of a flow. So what are the connectors in this? Two. I'm gonna get the data from SharePoint. So SharePoint is the first connector that is used in my flow. And then I said I'm gonna send it in an email as an attachment in an email. So I have the mail, Microsoft Mail, for instance, or Gmail could is the second connection. So I have two connectors in my flow. Connectors are integral to Power Automate, serving as the bridges that allow seamless communication between Power Automate and external applications, services, or databases. Examples include connectors for Microsoft 365, SharePoint, Salesforce, and more. So as you can see in here, all these are considered connectors. So we have Dynamics 365, Azure Logic Apps, Azure SQL databases, Office 365, Outlook, users, SharePoint, OneDrive for Business, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Forms, Excel Online, etc. Gmail. So all these are considered connectors. SQL Server, Outlook.com, Gmail, Google Drive, Dropbox, Twitter, Facebook pages, Slack, MailChimp, Salesforce, Trello, GitHub, etc. We have also Jira Cloud, ServiceNow, Power BI, SharePoint Online, and HTTP. Okay, so that was it for this introduction. So let's see you in the next video.